Hey everybody, welcome to season 11 of the Entrepreneur Experiment podcast with me, Gary Fox. Quick shout out to our sponsor Sage. Sage is the number one provider of finance, HR and payroll software to small and medium-sized enterprises all across the globe. To find out more about Sage, click the link in the description below. We are here in the new, beautiful, iconic offices in Cork for our first ever, I think you call this an outside broadcast. It's the first time we've recorded outside Dublin or remote. We've come down and we're chatting to Rob Horgan from Velo Coffee Roasters. Rob started in 2017. He pivoted from having a coffee shop into owning the entire roastery. We figure out how he grew so quickly and how he did that. We find out how he got right into the business. He went and learned how to roast the coffee himself, and how he secured contracts with people like Aldi, Tesco and Dunn's. We figure out how he grew his e-commerce business to be one of the biggest success stories in Ireland in the last 5 years. I hope you enjoy today's episode with Rob from Velo. Rob, welcome to the pod.
Thanks for having me, Gary. Looking forward to it.
Your name has been brought up many, many, many times. I've been threatening to come to Cork for a long, long time, and we finally got down here. We're in the beautiful new iconic offices here in Cork, and your name was the one person everyone said, if you come to Cork, chat to Rob. And you seem to be either related to or know most people.
That's the joys of Cork. We still have that village feel, even though we're a city.
Greatest city in the world, allegedly. I got a text off John Reardon as I was literally coming into Cork, and he goes, I didn't approve your pass to get into the greatest city in the world.
Well, not asking John for permission was mistake number one.
So, Rob, welcome. It's a privilege to have you on. We'd gone deep there even before we started recording about coffee, social media, marketing. I'm not even sure where to start with you. You said something there just as we were going on air, and you said, we're growing.
Yeah, I suppose it's okay to say it now, but when the pandemic hit, nobody knew what was ahead of them. And we were just exiting the cafe to separate out the coffee business completely. And it had been growing, and we had a John Reardon Shopify website that was sitting there. The year before the pandemic, it did just over €2,000. That's all it deserved to do. And once things settled in, I got onto a fantastic lady who'd worked with us in the past, Suzanne Casey, who is now our general manager, my right-hand woman, and asked her if she'd come back. And she took over the website, and it just took off. And it's grown every year since. We had a small 2-month window where we brought in some fantastic consultants that set us back for 2 months. And Suzanne just went like, these guys are killing us. And we parted amicably, and we learned stuff from them, but we just realized that the biggest challenge with a coffee website is it's a grocery product. And people are funny in Ireland about buying groceries online. There's more and more of it happening. Subscriptions are growing, but slowly. So you look at somebody who's ordered off you 18, 20 times, and their order is very similar. You're saying, why aren't they on a subscription? People aren't really into it in Ireland. They're getting there. We've changed the platform the subscriptions sit on so that they're more comfortable, they have more control over it, but still there's that piece in the background that they have this fear of.
When you say website, what were you doing? You said it did €2,000 and that's all deserved. What were you selling?
So selling coffee and brewing equipment. We view the brewing equipment as the handle to the razor blade being the coffee. And
nice analogy.
We aim to be the most competitive price-wise on the handles, because that's not our business. Our business is coffee, and that drives traffic. And if we do a good job, look after them, give them good customer service, they should come back. If they don't get coffee, so you touched on marketing, in their order, if the lads have an overrun on the floor, they'll do sample bags, and we'll put in a sample bag of something appropriate for the brewing method you have. So if you're using an AeroPress, you'll get ground coffee. If you're buying a bean-to-cup machine, you'll get beans.
Little touches like that, or the crown, or I was talking to Ali here at Iconic, and I was saying, good customer service is so rare now that when you get the smallest bit of kindness, you are so happy.
Aoife that looks after the online fulfillment is just fantastic, and there's nothing worse than opening your order that you've waited for and have been wrong. And her accuracy is just phenomenal, and we would comment internally that we want to have best in class customer service, and we have scripted answers for point of view of what is the answer to that, what do we want our message back to be, but it's not scripted. It's how would you like to be treated if that happened, and like a lot of it doesn't get to me now, but they'll just instantly go, okay, fix it, because it's not going to go away until we fix it, and just do it. We all know what has to happen. If we've got it wrong, send out the right thing straight away as fast as possible. And if the customers order the wrong thing, just try and help them get it fixed and try and keep them for life.
Expectation is so big, though, because if you tell someone it's going to come in 7 days and it comes in 4, you're ecstatic. If you tell someone it's coming in 4 and it comes in 7, they're absolutely raging. It must be quite difficult from that sense.
They try and keep me removed from things because I love that. So I'll be there and I say to Aoife, have Unpost turned up yet? No, why? Do you see those 2 orders just came in? It'd be great to get them out, wouldn't it? And they're the ones that you'll get the Instagram story the following day, ordered at 3:15 and 8:30 in the morning it was there. No, that's down to our delivery partner Unpost. It took us a long time to get to the scale where they take us in as a customer, and what they do for us is just fantastic. You can set the watch by the guys turning up to collect. You know, if we have a busy day, it's not, oh, for God's sake, look at all this stuff I have to load into the van. It's, God, it's great to see it busy, isn't it?
You're a partner as opposed to a customer. Yeah,
Yep.
that's a huge... Unpost have done incredible things in the last couple of years in terms of modernising, revolutionising. It really has stealthily, silently become a really, really powerful company.
The partnership they have with Scurry in the background that links into the Shopify website. So Aoife comes in the morning, click, 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 her labels are printed. Yeah. And there's no messing around. It's already highlighted the ones that there's an issue with the address, and it just makes it seamless. And then they turn up, load up the van, scan it, and the crumbs are starting. Then you're getting the great news on Post have your order.
Yeah.
And you can see it go into Port that evening. You can see it come back out the following morning, and you know what time your postman turns up. He knows that Gary's in Cork today.
He was your lifeline to the world during COVID. I mean, we would literally be waiting to see what was going to come today because literally that was the only way we could get things. Yeah. And I think that has definitely shifted perception of what's accessible, but also what's possible in terms of you have this immediacy bias now of like, well, I want it tomorrow.
We're in a nowness society. They want it now. They don't even want it tomorrow. Like, you look at the drone deliveries and stuff. Like, we were working with a guy in Dubai on Google advertising, and he was telling us that, like, next day delivery. No, that afternoon. So, like, he can at lunchtime today decide what's he going to have for dinner. Not Deliveroo, not cooked. Order his groceries for his dinner to be at his door when he gets home.
I'll have to tell Devin. He's a good friend of mine. He's all over that business. It's an incredible model they're working on. But a friend of mine was in London. Yeah, we were on a Zoom call at 8 a.m. and he goes, what was those lights you had in your TV last night? I was like, oh, these new kind of LEDs, the voice activated. He goes, have you got an Amazon link? And I was like, yeah. Pinged him the link. He goes, I can have that in like 5 hours. And he bought it. And I was like, buy it just to see how quick. 5 hours.
That's the challenge for us, and that's where the subscription piece that you never run out. So there was an email at the weekend. Hi, I have a subscription. I need to bring it forward. They can actually do that themselves now. So if they had done it on Saturday, Aoife would have had it out to them this morning. So that's the panic. I'm out of coffee, and I get a kick when I look at the Shopify back end that you see the timing of the orders coming in. And you can kind of visualize what's happened. I've gone downstairs and there is no coffee left, because that's when they've doubled their order on their previous history, or the last bag has just gone in and they repeat the order. But it's interesting. And then since Brexit was a great challenge for us, same as everyone else, and we were just growing nicely in the UK. So this year we ended up opening our own warehouse in the north to overcome that. And there's a whole different, and it's down to that 5 hour piece, expectation of nowness there. The customer based in the UK demands fast delivery and are very offended by it being any way late. And that's, from a customer service point of view, it's challenging because couriers are still stretched. So there's 2 different services in the UK. We use Parcel Force and DPD, and they have a choice. They can pick. And the idea of that is that they know which one is better in their area, you hope. And
I read that the psychology of this as well is that People are less annoyed if they've made the choice. I think Rory Sutherland did a study on this.
Yeah.
He's such an interesting character. He said if people have the choice and they pick and it goes wrong, they feel it's their fault.
They do, but they push it back on quickly.
Okay.
And the problem is with these guys, they're so busy. When the service works, it works. When something falters, they don't really have a mechanism. So more often than not, like, we just send a replacement. If it's of a reasonable value,
Yeah.
just send the replacement. We'll deal with getting the other one back. And that's a challenge. The nowness with the UK customers is more challenging, but it's down to your friend there with the 5-hour LED light delivery. That service is available in certain areas.
You mentioned there briefly you closed down your cafe. How do you go from that to running a massive e-commerce and a big brand, to be fair, in a very, very short space of time? I'm sure it doesn't feel like that. I'm sure it's like dog years. I also equate entrepreneur years to dog years. How does that transition happen?
So where the coffee started from is we had space in the cafe that we weren't using, and everything in there was local except for the coffee. And I suppose, like, anyone who goes out on their own, there's always a want in them, isn't there? You've met loads of us. There's something missing.
I always say the red wires are touching the yellow.
Yeah, is that it? Yeah. So people were telling me I couldn't do something. It's never great. So I wanted a roast coffee. I started off looking into see what's involved in roasting coffee, so that when we were going to meet a coffee roaster, we'd know who knew their game, and that's who we could go with. And I realised very quickly we can do this ourselves, and I wanted to do it in this empty space. So there's a cafe in Shoreditch in London, Ozone, and they are roasting smack in the middle of London. Went over, had a look, met the guy roasting there. Fantastic. The only thing is, buy the biggest roaster you can, because you run out of capacity very quickly. There's lot 61 in Amsterdam, right in the edge of the canal. Same thing. Fantastic roaster there. We're roasting most of it outside the town and warehouse. Buy the biggest roaster you can. So I went to Germany, got trained on coffee roasting, and there was 7 of us on the course. 2 of us just got it straight away. There's a huge amount of science going on that you just need to ignore, understand what's going on in the background. So if it starts to go wrong, you know what to do to correct it, but you got to just ignore it.
Okay.
It's mad baking. And
it's like me when I'm fixing something at home. It'll be fine.
Yeah. So 2 of us got it. Third one, I'd say she's got it since. And the rest of them just, like, it was double Dutch. And I was one of the lucky ones. I just got it. So we got the roaster. Everything on paper said we should have got a 5-kilo roaster. We got a 12. And there was supplier development program by Aldi. And, like, we're known for being the coffee in Aldi. We're really lucky. Anna Nicola in Dunn supported us. Joe and Jenny in Tesco supported us. Paul up in Murmax and Ballintemple supported us. Like, we're available now in over 300 stores across the country, plus the online business, plus Cisco for food service, but we're still known for Aldi. So we entered this Aldi Grow with Aldi program, and there was a fantastic girl working with us at the time, Jen Ramsbottom, and myself and Jen were at a day with Aldi where we'd realised we're going to get the week on the shelf. Everyone was getting the week on the shelf that was at that stage, but it was about the top 5 performers got the year. So we had our work done from a point of view of the next phase, and when everyone was concentrating on how they were going to get the week on the shelf, myself and Jen were doing a marketing plan as to how the hell we were going to get to the year. Because the week, well, it was fantastic, it was a great experience, huge training. The week is no good.
I wanted to ask you this because I've had friends of mine and I've had various people I know who've had the week, and I'm like, is it a blessing or a curse? Or is it both, depending on what you do with it?
But it's what you want from it. So what we wanted was the piece that we didn't touch on there with that whole story of going to Germany is, I can't scale a cafe. I look at the chains and I don't know how they do it. I couldn't do it because we touched on it earlier on. Oh, you're gone too big for the cafe. You're never there anymore. Was that last Tuesday at 10:30? I was at the dentist. There's this expectation in a small owner-operated cafe that you should be there all the time. If you're open 7 days a week, it became a 7-day-week job. And you can't scale at that. You can't keep going. So I wanted something I could scale. And if you want to scale, you got to be available. And that was delivered the availability piece straight away for us. And
Was this at the back of your mind when you started down the roasting journey? Was this kind of, you know what, this might be the avenue?
it was, I always loved retail. When I came out of college in the UK, I worked with two fantastic brothers who had a farm in England, supplying all of the supermarkets except for Marks and Spencer's with veg and salad. So short shelf life, overnight deliveries, high pressure stuff, FMCG at its best, and it was a real learning. Two great guys, and there's always a buzz with it, and it's like you said, a brand. As far as we're concerned internally, we're a long way off a brand. We're not known enough. We've spent a ridiculous amount of money in marketing, and we're still not known enough. But it's Velo's growing every week, and we just got to keep doing it. If we keep the quality in the bag, we'll get the repeat customer and do that. But the blessing or not, there was people went into that Grow with Ali program that they didn't want the long-term piece, and that was fine. They just wanted the scale piece, but we certainly wanted it. So
they were happy with the week?
Yep.
They were just happy with the little bit of moment in the sun, and then we'll
Yep.
go back to doing our thing. That seems contradictory.
we went and met Johnny and McCroom Mozzarella because we would have dealt with them, and Johnny said, like, just be careful, because when they talk in thousands, that's what they mean. They're not talking in thousands to get a price for thousands and then going to order a few hundred. So if you can't do 5,000 for the week, tell them day one that you can only do 4, 3, whatever it is. If they want it, they'll take it, but you need to be up. And that was the size of the prize that we suddenly realised we got to work hard on this, and we had that plan done for the week. We'd all sorts of stuff ready to roll. We'd proper press photography ready. We'd everyone that we knew tasked with sharing the stories, knowing that half them would do it as it filtered down. We had people dotted around the country, asked them to go in and buy the bag because we wanted it to activate. We wanted people seeing it bought.
Was it literally that granular, hand-to-hand combat, getting people in Mayo, getting people in Donegal, Tipperary, whatever, to do it? It was literally go in, grab a bag, grab 2, grab 10.
The joys of the cafe was that UCC, we had lots of people working the weekend who were students. They were from all over the country. So Jen was like, so where do you live? And where are your family? And, oh, you have a brother in Dublin. Oh, great. And you have a brother in, oh, great. And it was literally a list of, here's going to attack here, here's going to attack here, and just getting it out there. So on the Saturday that launched, we were the top story on the Independent Online all the way into Sunday. And that was not that the story was that interesting. Like, who cares? Some fella in Cork is after roasting some coffee and selling it. What about you? It was the amount of shares it was getting.
Okay.
And
had worked on getting that PR piece, you'd worked on securing the traditional media route.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like, hopefully a lot of people are looking at this, are listening to this rather than looking at it. I have a face for radio, and luckily we were wheeled out on TV. We were on radio, and then we had a huge presence on traditional print media, and then we had our own social media campaign as well.
Quite a detailed plan. How'd you even come up with that?
A train journey down from Dublin. A lot of it was done. And when you sit down and start teasing it out, then the ideas come in, and then the madness comes in, and you just keep on going.
There's something magical about travel, though, because I don't know what it is. Like, you're on that plane or you're on that train for like 2-3 hours. It's like you go into this bubble of creativity. I don't know what it. There must be something magical about the Cork to Dublin train. The Work Bebo lads were in here a few minutes ago, and they were saying, "Oh, Cork Dublin train is where we got most of our new customers." I was like, "What is the story with this train?"
You see, you drove down today. I got the train.
Rookie mistake.
Oh.
I'm going to drive home just to get the train back down to see what happens. Pod goes to 1 million downloads overnight. But that's like, to go from that cafe to getting your roaster to being the number one, story and then product of the week. I mean, that's how long a time frame are we talking here?
So the roaster, the 25th of October 17, the roaster landed in Cork. And August 18 is when we hit the shelves of Aldi.
So less than a year.
Yeah.
Wow.
And I suppose it's more so now. It's the people around you. I mentioned Jen, amazing. Suzanne, who's with us now, was in the cafe back then. Adam, who's with us now and is now our roaster, was a chef in the cafe. And Adam roasted a 3-star great taste coffee last year. The last one of that from Ireland was 2015 that we can see. There's been a couple of them lately, but that's where coffee's gone in Ireland. And, you know, Adam pulled a gold out of Bloss again this year. They're hard fought, and having the right people around you. And there's a scary atmosphere in work that we can take on the world. And I go in some days and I'm the elder lemon, and you're looking at these young, energetic people who believe that we can do it. There's a map on the wall above Madison, and there's 48 pins in it. They're the countries we've exported to. None of them meaningful, but our coffee has gone there, where somebody's come on to our website and ordered coffee, and it's gone and been delivered there to some of the maddest places. And you look, we have a customer who orders about 4 times a year from remote Canada. Don't ask me how she found us.
That was going to be my next question.
Yeah, like just remote. We've had coffee go to India. Understandable, Ratnagiri in India is one of our favourite coffees, and the traffic on their Instagram and stuff, you could see how people would find us there. You could kind of understand that one. You understand coffee going to Australia because somebody's sending something to somebody who's missing home. You understand it going to America, but like Eastern Europe, parts of Africa, you're kind of scratching your head going, how did they find us?
Oh, sometimes I see the pod downloads. I'm like, what? I'm like bringing up Google Maps going, where? And that's wild. So this is a wild journey, though. You know, we're only in 2022 now. Like, to go from there to here in that length of time. So you did the plan with Aldi. Obviously, things went well. The week went strongly.
The consumer reacted to the coffee, but I suppose when you go back to when we started, so we did the training piece, and then myself and my son went to the UK to meet green bean merchants, because it's fine having a coffee roaster. Like, lots of us have the same make of roaster. It's what you do with the coffee in it that makes the difference. And our aim is to keep the sweetness in the cup all the time, that the palate has changed away from that bitter punched coffee that gives you a kick to being an enjoyable product that you consume multiple times a day. There's not just this G up in the morning that nearly sets you backwards. And that's what we aim for. We aim sweetness, we aim repeat purchase, we aim multiple cups, and that's what we try. So we landed in Manchester, drove to Liverpool, and we met Olam, who is our main supplier nowadays. They just happened to be the first one we met, and they were just fantastic guys. Like, we had a coffee we wanted to match, so we went through all that, and we were new to this. We were learning as well, and suddenly, like, we've gone from we just wanted to buy some green coffee and roast it to watching the dollar to sterling, watching the C price in the New York market, watching the hedging of coffee prices, and going like, sorry, we don't have this skill, and they're with us all the way. We met 2 others that the coffee wasn't as good, and it was more expensive with no real reason behind it. So our Colombia coffee, there's 10 cent from every kilo, goes back to projects at origin. And simple thing like kids walking 15 miles to get to school, they built a bridge across the valley. The bridge cost a few $1,000s. Things like that make a meaningful difference. Like, so you get asked for iPads for Origin. No, because they're just going to be taken off the kids. Do meaningful projects, and that's what Olam do. They've people at Origin that'll manage it, make sure it happens, make sure it's done, and do meaningful things. And we've grown out with them. So having the right coffee led to that. And then when the pandemic came, the website started building out, and then we would have had mainstay coffees that sell well, and now people are at home, they're brewing at home. We had a coffee last year from the Galapagos Islands. The maddest thing ever. It's lovely, but it was a gamble, because if we're buying from a traditional coffee origin, we can get in a sample before it leaves. We can sample roast it, taste it, make sure it's okay. You can't do that from the Galapagos. So you got to take a punt on it that it's going to be good.
Great story, though.
It was a small bag, and it arrived in a lovely bag, and it's but like, they're the kind of things that Olam can deliver to you. That there needs to be a bit of fun in work as well. And like I touched on earlier on, we go down to what we call the online room, which is where Aoife does all the orders, and there's 25 to 30 different coffees in there at a given time. And it's a complete luxury to be able to go down and pick, oh, what do we drink for this part of the day? And at times we forget it, but then somebody will go down and pick something different that we haven't had in a while. Oh, what's that? Oh, that's the new micro lot from Ratnagiri. It's amazing, isn't it? And then we're all reading the pack. And then, lo and behold, next week Madison's email newsletter is the micro lot from Ratnagiri. And it's the people around me all the way through is what has led to it. So keeping the quality in. Like, I've gone down and I've looked at Alma and she's lining up the date code labeler and she's spending 7-8 minutes moving it the tiniest bit because she wants it in the right place in the back of the bag. And that piece that everyone inside in the building is invested all the way through. The biggest challenge we have is when something goes wrong, because they all start beating themselves up about it and going like, guys, it's okay. It's coffee we sell, not defibrillators. So just bring it back to perspective, but we just got to make sure something like this doesn't happen again.
Talk to me about that, because you've said something very interesting there. You mentioned the words fun, and it's not always mentioned, it's not always brought up. And you mentioned kind of like there's clearly a passion and an intensity in you, and you say your staff have this intention to kind of take over the world almost as well. How do you balance those two?
It can be hard at times, and it's hard to try and take that energy out without being destructive. So we went karting a couple of weeks ago, and quite often it comes up, why don't we do the floor against the office? No, because we're flatline and we're all the same. Because without Sashi doing the invoices, there's no need for you guys on the floor. Without you guys on the floor, there's no need for Sashi. And it's to keep it that every single cog in the wheel is important. And factually it is. And it doesn't really matter what part of that. If any part of it breaks down, it all falls apart very quickly. We're doing a lot of work on our structure at the moment because we're going to double this year, and the plans look like we're going to do the same again next year. And with manufacturing and growing at that rate, you need a bit of structure, need a bit of organisation, and it's without becoming, I hate the org chart. I just hate it.
They're a bit 1960, aren't they?
But they're important. And it's where, more so, where's the gap going to be next year? And it's when you start looking at it, there's a guy in our building at the moment, and part of this work is to get him out. Harry Potter is his name. So an order comes in and I'll spot it. I'll print the paperwork because I happen to have a window. You'll call me and I'll head downstairs and get distracted. I'll leave the paperwork in the printer. The paperwork will get to Adam. But it's Harry Potter brings it. And we need to just, if we want to double again next year without spinning plates, that piece. So things like the day out of karting, just to deflate it, Friday afternoon, I try and get everyone out of the building as early as possible. And that cut-off is actually the on-post time. So once on-post come at 3:30, I start walking around going, what are you doing? Get out of here. It's only an hour, but it's just that piece of, let's get out of here. And
it's a big hour, yeah.
We avoid the weekend. If we have to, no problem. They all know if something comes in, I have no problem asking people to work long, late, weekends, and they all are delighted to do it, but we avoid it where possible. So we just try and stay structured, organised ahead to ensure that, and then just try and have some fun. So we're really lucky that everyone who went to the Olympics that medalled drinks Velo coffee. There's one for you. Fact.
Really?
Yep.
Because you were at the Olympics as the sponsored drink, or what?
Prior to that, they were drinking Velo coffee, and then we started. Some of them were in touch.
Hold on, break this down for me now, because that's a wild.
So some of them were in touch with,
right,
and some of them we started spotting it online. And you start looking at the rowers, you'll see in camp, there's like, our eyes are probably trained to spot it like I spotted your one with the AeroPress last year. You see it. So we're in touch with them, but those guys come up. So I don't know if you spotted Gary O'Donovan in the restaurant on Virgin Media last week. Gary the restaurant got in touch and said, Gary O'Donovan was coming on in a couple of weeks' time. He wants to do a coffee cake and he wants to be your coffee. How do we get the coffee? So Gary's come up and roasted coffee, and there's just that bit of fun. Like, he is in person what you see in the media. He's fun, he's energy, he's been messing. So things like that just take a bit of the hard work and mundane out of the day and just having a bit of fun. Like, we've a competition for November, Black Friday, big time online. Okay, guess what we're going to turn over online in November? The prize is an Aer Lingus voucher, sorry Mr. O'Leary, and a free day off. The idea is that whoever wins it gets a long weekend.
Nice.
Somewhere in Europe, off you go. Don't know how it panned out this way, but the winner last year was Aoife, but 3 of them took the long weekend.
Team effort, right? It's a team game.
That's what I was told.
I have a feeling, though, you make this all sound quite straightforward when it's anything but. I noticed you last week, was it with Pat Phelan? The coffee, you noticed I didn't even remember that story about the me last year with the Velo. Like, that doesn't happen by accident. You're not like, oh, I'm just online and I just noticed this. Like, that is a very specific, very detailed way to think.
I don't have great attention to detail, but I have people around me who have. So I will hand Suzanne or Madison my laptop just because they're the two that are nearest me in the office. Have a read off that there. And like Suzanne, you can just see her going, oh my God, like, does he proofread anything? Like, you get a 2-line back from me, like, there will be 2 spelling mistakes in it. That's just a bit of dyslexia and a bit of rushing. But I'm a good man for a screenshot, and they'll get the email, ask Rob. And it'll just be a screenshot because I won't remember, and they'll come to me, what's this one? So Pat, flying to America, there was no coffee available on the plane. The food was poor. He was having a horrendous experience, and like, you just got to be blown away by what they're doing with CSU at the moment. The scale, the speed, like, it's frightening what they're doing. The travel, London, New York, Miami, Cork, Waterford, Killarney, it's just insane. And he's always good fun online. Yeah, he gets a bit serious at times, but
he paints picture.
Yeah.
He's active. Like, very few entrepreneurs in Ireland are active enough. Like, he's quite active. He tells a story, and he's not afraid to be a little, not controversial, but direct.
He calls it as it
which is exactly, and that's what you want. A lot of people are kind of portraying an image online, whereas he's like, the picture of him holding the little wrap in his hand, and it's like.
So there's this fantastic travel French press, and I genuinely believe in it. If you're away, like I keep saying this, the days of crap, are we allowed to use bad words?
Oh, you are. Crap's not a bad word on this podcast. You're fine. Sorry, just for context, for it to tell the rest of the story, you saw Pat Phelan post online that he was having a terrible experience with Aer Lingus and coffee. You sent him a gift pack the week after, maybe very shortly. He posted online. I saw it, and I'm now talking to you about it. That is how the marketing loop has happened here.
There's this travel French press, and I believe that the days of crap hotel coffee should be over, but it's still there. So I'm going to wait for 2 nights this week. I will have a travel French press. I will have coffee. Tip it into the travel French press. All I need from the hotel is hot water. And I go out the door satisfied in the morning because, like, we're doing a lot of work in the UK this year, and myself and Suzanne have been travelling a lot, and I'd arrive down to breakfast and I just look at the cup and she just goes, no, it's not worth it. And I've already...
Don't waste your coffee credits.
I've already gone onto Google to see, like, because, like, within a couple hundred metres of all these places now, there's a decent coffee shop.
UK is cool. I'm in Manchester a lot going to games, and there's some really cool coffee shops there. Black Sheep, I was in it last week, and really cool. And I mean, they're the new pub. They're the new treat. You know, I love going to a new coffee place, new independent kind of like place.
But the marketing, like, marketing is fun. You know, and I regularly go in and I feel like an ogre when I say it, like, lads, our social media is boring. It is. So we mentioned earlier on, we're looking for somebody creative at the moment to just shake it up again, because, like, there's so much more fun you can do with it. But, like, you get into, that's the fun side of it. And, like, last week we were doing, 2 weeks ago, the Christmas photo shoot. So, like, you're in October and you're playing with Christmas. It is fun. Yeah, you know, people give out about it. It won't be posted for another few weeks, but it's there, it's ready. And it's that fun side of it that we all enjoy, like getting in the back of Google Ads and doing the audience and stuff, yawn, boring. But the fun marketing, I think everyone enjoys it.
What's been working for you? We briefly talked about this off air. What's working now? You're saying you're doubling, you're growing, and you talked about marketing and social media marketing. What are you seeing? I love to give people tangibles. I love to go, right, that's actually helped me. If you're a small retailer or if you're an online, what are you finding that's working, or it might be kind of a little bit different than what people commonly think?
So you touched on it beforehand. Photography, invest in it. So it has to be of quality nowadays. So simple thing like last year we bought a better camera. We get in professional photographers. You know, any of the advice courses now will tell you have professional photography in the bank, whether you're doing something with the media or you're doing your own stuff. But if you want to sell online, you have to have professional images. They just have to be of the quality, because you're not going to get the reach from Google if your imagery looks poor and it's a computer reading it. So if it looks poor to a computer, it's poor to the human as well.
Yeah.
So you won't get that. Keeping it fresh. You know, you put out the same picture, you won't get the reach because the platforms don't want you to be boring their audience. Paid has been challenging for the last probably 18 months, but it's keeping on top of it, watching it. We've same as many others, I'm sure, we've run into holes where we've just been investing in it and it hasn't been given the return, and you get onto your account manager and, oh, you need to tweak this, you need to tweak that. You need to reset it every so often, you need to keep on top of it. So every Monday morning, we look at the previous weeks, what's going on. Dara's looking at it every day. We're on top of it, but deep dive into the previous week. Email marketing, fantastic. We get great returns on it. But my piece on that is the consumer has to be paid to open the email every time. There has to be an offer in there. It has to be something. Might not be for you on this occasion, but at least you know when the next one comes out, it's worth going in to look, because otherwise you just go into the spam folder.
See, that's the thing, and I think a lot of people don't get that. It's an exchange of value. I'm giving you my time and my attention. That's why I always think of this podcast. I'm always so adamant that it has to be good. If someone's giving me an hour, better be a good hour. You know, so I adamant it's good, because otherwise, like, there's no exchange of value there. If you're clicking onto me in Spotify or Apple or YouTube or whatever it is, you want to be entertained. You're giving me an hour, so you want to be entertained.
He's going to leave this one in the can, lads.
Oh, 100%. This is going out as a new promo. Are you not entertained? But it is, though. It can't just be all serious. It has to be a bit of fun, and that's why I like to mix it up with a great story and then some tangibles and then some, it has to be different. Like you say, they have to get an offer. Mine be for them every time. It's like when you get sent out surveys, you're like, oh, a 10-minute survey and not even the chance of winning like a one for all or something. I'm like, you're fine. Or the new one, I'm getting this a lot recently. Have you got time for a quick 20-minute feedback call? I'm like, no. I'll ring my mother instead for 20 minutes, but I haven't got 20 minutes to give you feedback on your product for nothing.
Yeah, and are you going to take on board the feedback is the bigger question. Like, we love getting customer feedback. Don't like receiving some of it, but we love to hear it, because if we don't react on it, we're doomed.
But if someone feels passionate enough, whether good or bad, to reach out, then they feel something. It's worse than feel nothing.
Like the best moment for us as a business came from a negative. So we changed our packaging. We were going to be the first in Ireland with fully recyclable packaging. Glitch with Repack, they weren't ready to sign off on it, even though they were supposed to have it done. Yes, the waste companies knew it was recyclable, but it hadn't formally been signed off on it. So while it was recyclable, we couldn't sing that it was. So we had to put a sticker over the recyclable logo, which meant that the bag was no longer recyclable because there was a sticker on it. But that's another day's work. Come on, why would you have an issue with that? And the manufacturer recommended a small alteration at the last minute, and it led to a constraint. We got emails, phone calls, social media messages, and we got an old school letter, which we all loved.
Love that.
But it was the fantastic moment of realising that we knew there was people out there buying our coffee every week, but suddenly we're part of their life. They're engaged with it, and there's this emotional attachment to it, and we've broken that by trying to do something good, and we instantly went, oh my God, we've got thousands of these bags, and we've got to get through them, and we've got to get this redesigned. And got onto the manufacturer, and there was a row ensued, and there was a mini solution that wasn't good enough. So we had to stop and listen, and we went back to the old shape bag. The consumer loved it. That's what they wanted. Had it zipped. They didn't need a separate container. Kept their wives happy. Their counters were clean, and they could open the top of the bag, laser scored, make it easier to open, and reseal it. And that feedback, while it hurt, particularly Suzanne, who put huge work into the bag, it was a moment where we realised they actually do care about what we do. And that was really warming.
How do you deal with something like that, though? Completely outside your own control. You've done nothing wrong. You know, you've been trying to do something good. How do you bounce back quickly from that? Like, what was the first thing you did? Because you seem like a very action-based, very logical, straight line. Just get this solved. What was the first thing you did?
Well, the biggest problem is, we touched earlier on the nowness society. It's not a quick turnaround because the bags are manufactured in Asia. We put a huge amount of work in that time to find a European manufacturer, and there isn't one yet. And so we needed to get the bag redesigned. We agreed very quickly that we were going back to the old shape. And we needed to get it manufactured. So it was going to be a 5-month turnaround, but it was literally that. It was, okay, let's thank the customers. Let's keep them informed. Let's tell them we're going to act. We need time to act. And then, so we replied to all the customers, told them thank you, acknowledged it, and we got some containers for some, we got smaller scoops for some, and found solutions to work with them to try and maintain them as customers. It's hard fought to get a customer nowadays. It's expensive to get a customer.
I'd imagine.
So you need to mind them when you have them. So we did those pieces straight away, and then got to redesigning a bag and getting it into manufacture as quick as we could, and turned it around as fast as we could. But it had to be, okay, stop. First thing, fix the customer issue as best we could, and then get on the redesign, which it was soul destroying because we really liked the bag, but the functionality wasn't there. And it was the manufacturer recommended the change, and it was just the whole thing. So if we fixed the functionality, it still didn't please the customer because they just didn't like this new shape anymore, because it was the bad experience in fixing the functionality wasn't going to be visible from the outset. So we needed to go back and make that change, and we just did. And you got to listen to your customers, but not let them control your business. But at this point, they were right and we were wrong, and we just had to hands up and correct it. So that's what we did.
Is this the biggest challenge you faced since you started? Because it sounds like you've had a very upward and to the right journey. I'm sure it hasn't been. So what's been the biggest thing you've faced in your 5-6 years at this now?
I suppose we've challenged ourselves with getting a UK retail listing, and it's a different market over there. The UK is, politically at the moment, there's a lot of turmoil going on there. So that's going to be more challenging than we probably first accepted. We always knew it would be challenging because at the end of the day, the fact that we think we're great and we love what we do and we've lots of loyal customers and we've growing UK customer base. There's loads of us in the UK as well who think the same. But we've always been retail focused, and that's helped. So I suppose that was probably the biggest negative. Like any business, like there's challenges every day, but when you've the right people around you, and like we've good customers, so we sell to the retailers, they're good customers, and the end consumer who's buying the product has been good. So I suppose we've had a lot of luck.
Is it challenging to have two bosses, though, in one sense, in terms of you've got your online customers and then you've got your retailers who are buying hundreds of thousands of bags, I'm sure, every year? Is it challenging?
The retail space is very simple. You provide them with a product that the consumer wants at the moment, and you keep selling. It's a very easy relationship.
At the moment, though, is the key thing, right?
But if we keep if we keep on top of our job and keep the product where the consumer wants it, that should be it. So like if we get complacent and sit in our laurels, it'll be over. So the new coffees we've bought in, the addition to the range, that's all about keeping on what are the consumers looking for. So a few weeks ago we launched a larger bag format in Dunn's because there's a huge amount of bean to cup people at home now. Since people working from home, they've invested in their coffee brewing equipment, they're going through more coffee at home. They want a bigger bag format. They don't want to be buying coffee every week.
Makes sense, yeah.
So it's simple, yeah. Larger pack formats have been out for years, but predominantly for food service. So making a specialty grade, multi-award winning coffee available in retail in larger pack format. It's simple, but it's giving the consumer what they want. So then it becomes easier. The fact that we're growing makes that relationship easier. But when any of these pieces start falling off, so as soon as we get complacent, it's over. We're more than aware there is another Velo chasing us every day, and we're just got to keep ahead. And it's
That sounds tough. That sounds challenging and stressful.
If everyone in the building is doing their job, we're okay. And they are. Like, there's one of me here today. Like, the guy that we worry about most is Dave in the north, because Dave is the only man in the north at the moment. That will
Mind
grow.
yourself, Dave. Don't take any risks.
That will grow, but
Dave's the boy in the bubble at the minute, is he?
But like, I walked into Aoife earlier on. She was on the phone. I gave her the thumbs up. Are you okay? Yeah, it's Dave. So Aoife and Dave are the lifeline to each other. But like myself and Suzanne are going up to Dave on Wednesday, and it's that everyone working together will keep ahead and keep going. And once we're not complacent, we'll be fine. So like, we've different bits coming that we're working on that we're not ready to tell the world yet.
Teasing us with it.
Yeah.
Oh, you're just angling to get back on next year.
And they're but we have to, because we got to keep pushing, and that's where.
If you're not going forward, you're going backwards. I think that's it in business. There is no stasis. There is no standing still. It's either forwards or backwards. Yeah. And the good companies know this.
Yeah. So like when we were lucky enough that Dunn said, yeah, we're going to take you. Our biggest challenge was to make sure that we maintain growth in Aldi, because there's no point in cannibalizing the business. And like we all know, the shopper travels, and there was a focused effort internally to make sure that we gave a big push on advertising awareness to ensure that we grew both.
That's interesting, because I think a lot of people will be like, oh, favourite new child has just come into their building. Come on in. And they're a big name. Obviously, they're both big names. But especially when you're a smaller company, I'd imagine it is challenging to kind of go arm around both at the same time. That's got to be a tough relationship.
So one of the bigger challenges than the bag error was Tesco's. We were talking to Tesco's for a long time. And that stemmed from a conversation down at the Irish Food Awards with Joe Manning. And the start of the retail journey, it all falls together very quickly at the end, but they decide when the end starts, not you. And Jenny came on taking 9 facings in Tesco's. So we're a small Cork company. We should not have 9 facings in the coffee aisle in Tesco's. But she believed in us, and she believed in the product. And we're now into our second year there. And we've maintained the 9 facings. That was a challenge.
When you say 9 facings, anyone who's not in the retail game, what does that mean as I'm looking at the shelf in Tesco?
So
what does that mean?
There's 9 different Velo options in Tesco's.
So now when you're listening, next time you're in Tesco,
stop and look.
Look up and see.
Yeah.
How do you scale that, though? Because the Aldi, a week to a year, now we're in Dunn's, now we're in Tesco. I mean, physically. How do you actually physically scale that? Because surely that has to be a challenge.
So we moved from the edge of the cafe very quickly, and then luckily we found somebody to buy the cafe office, and we went to a warehouse on the North Ring Road. We were 1,000 square feet over 2 floors, and we rapidly grew out of that, and we're now in 5,000 square feet, still in Mayfield, and those moves, the last move, mentally, physically, financially, nearly broke us. But we were lucky enough to have some great supporters through the EWIS scheme, and Kevin Canning and Quintus, that I think you're
good
in
friends of
touch with.
ours. Yeah.
Kevin was great to us, and that enabled us to do the scaling. That suddenly the turbojets just turn on. When a big retailer turns on quickly, it eats money from a point of view of packaging ahead, coffee ahead. So like, we're buying coffee for next year now, so we need to plan, be ahead. And I said, like, we just want to be a small business, just want to buy some green coffee, roast it, put it in bags and sell it. and suddenly we're looking at containers and shipping prices and like what's going on with the supply chain. And like, we invested heavily this year in packaging, to ensure that we were ahead of it from a point of view of that supply chain. And I reckon the last quarter was going to be a mess, and that was before war came out. And so a lot of our packaging boxed off early, and I'd say the guys in air shipping think I'm the coolest guy in the world. Like, I do have a little bit of a flair in me, but like, because we're ahead. Hi Rob, sorry, that shipment is now pushed back by another week. We'll keep you posted next week when we have an update on it. Thanks a million for the update, chat to you soon. As opposed to, what do you mean? I need it tomorrow. And like, we've had those windows where like the bags are in Dublin, phew, because we're out.
It's timing though, isn't it? We've chatted about this a lot on this pod. Timing. And you can't plan it, but like, a good thing at the wrong time is still a bad thing. You know, whereas if you got all these things at the wrong time and you weren't in a position to buy forward like this, it's a huge issue. So timing plays such a huge part.
All our manufacturing, didn't matter whether you're in coffee or sweets, didn't matter. We were all built on just in time. So you gave me a lead time, and that was the lead time. That's broken now. Doesn't exist anymore. So if we're getting onto China to order bags, historically those bags took 30 days from me sending the deposit to them saying the bags are ready, send the money. That could be anything now. It could be 90. And they will not tell you. You will send the deposit and you'll look in 30 days, are they ready? Not yet. And we are with the best bag manufacturer out there. We tried a different one. It did not work out at all. And the company we're with, they're fantastic, but they're having challenges out there as well.
It's so hard to know what's going on in the world. Yeah. Every weekend I'm reading the Financial Times, like I have a clue what's happening. I'm just like flicking through going, I don't know what's going on. Like, it's just, how do you, as a business, how do you cope with that? How do you make plans and, forecast forwards with the world being in such chaos?
We're in the middle of budgeting for next year at the moment, and it's fairly happy that we're done, that we've a good plan. But I suppose the one for me was, if you go back to Paddy's Day at the start of the pandemic, no parades, nothing going on. It was a day off. And this was before any lockdowns or anything. And there is nothing nicer than roasting coffee when you don't have to. There's something musical about coffee in the barrel. Yeah, he's looking at me now thinking he's a bit cracked.
No, I know what you mean, because I am the world's worst procrastinator. And at the odd time, I'm like, I'm just going to do this now. And the smugness I feel when it's not due for a few weeks and I have it done, it's like these episodes. If I have these done a few weeks in advance, I am the smuggest man in the world.
So I'm there roasting coffee, and the buying director in Aldi is ringing me. I'm going, Paddy's Day, pocket dial? No. And answer the phone, I'm looking around going, there's no bolts missing off the warehouse. There's no coffee here that shouldn't be here.
Yeah, you're expecting it bad.
Yeah, and Rob, I can hear you're obviously working as well. Great. Listen, this pandemic, this is what we're hearing. Just want to run through your supply chain. And they have it, because that's the way all the retailers work nowadays. So we ran through it all, and he said, right, these are the problems we're seeing. We've already been told by a couple of people that we're going to be off shelf. Do not join the list, Rob. Do what you need to do. Make sure you don't join the list.
I like that, though, proactive, reaching out to a partner. I like that.
Yeah, no, fantastic. So I sent a small fortune to China that minute, because the only thing that was going to stop us being on the shelf was the bags.
Right.
Donpack and Bandon have been with us for boxes from day one. Fantastic. So the boxes are in Bandon. It's only down the road. No, they have their own supply chain issues. So coffee landed into Dublin.
What about coffee? Is it not hard to get that as well?
We're always ahead on coffee because you have to be, because it's coming from the other side of the world.
Right.
And yeah, it gets challenging with the growth that you haven't ordered enough ahead, but there's ways around that. Back down to that partnership with Oldham. They've been great to us all the way through, and just keeping them in loop. Look at Howard, this is what we're up to at the moment. I'll let you know if it lands, but this is what we're thinking. So part of that bit of news piece that we're not ready for yet is our El Salvador is going to be available a lot more next year. I was on to Howard about that because they only harvest once a year. What's the story on availability of this? I have somebody who's flip-flopping on something. Said, can I have it? And it was like, can I have it? And that coffee piece is, there's options there all the time due to that relationship piece. Packaging is one that kills us because it's so far away, and so sent a small fortune to China. But what that meant was that we were on shelf, and then when the others were off shelf, we got on to Laura, who runs the Grow program, who would have been our first point of contact, and said, look, we've no problem with being used. We know we won't keep the space, but when there's gaps in the shelves, use us. And in that year, we doubled our sales.
Just like that.
Just like that.
But it's, been prepared and been ready to kind of take a chance, because I remember Paddy's Day, we were in the hospitality business, and I remember going, oh, that's going to sting now, because that was our biggest 2 weeks of the year, and I was like, oh, that's gonna take us a good 4 weeks to make back up.
Yeah.
And then you're looking back on now going, oh my God.
Yeah.
It was, no one knew what was happening. So to see someone as proactive as that is really insightful. But
it was getting that call to, I suppose, I had met one of the minister's drivers. RTE was across the road from us, and the driver used to come across for coffee when the minister was in doing the interviews, and Tall John is what we used to call him. And I said, come on, John, what are you hearing in the car? What's down the tracks for us? What's this? He said, and like, he'd obviously be discreet. He'd never say anything, but he said to me, he said, not hearing great stuff. He's walk across me. He'll be out in 7 minutes, and I have to get him to Dublin, but I'll give you 2 minutes. I'll leave him tell you, but like, it's not great. And stood there on the quay, and he just said, yeah, this is going to be horrendous, and it's going to be a lot longer, a lot deeper, and a lot harder when it starts than anyone would ever anticipate. So I was asking, there was a chat group of cafes, and we didn't know what the right thing to do was. There was like, you should stay open, and there was another cohort saying you should close and protect your staff, and nobody knew. And like, we were all in the chat group going like, just want to do the right thing, but we don't really know what.
And it was changing by the day.
By the hour.
Oh, now you're responsible to be open. Now you're responsible to be closed because people have no lifeline. Yeah. Which is it?
So he said, stay open as long as you can, because, and this was the line, because when we close you, it's going to be for a lot deeper, a lot longer, and a lot harder than anyone anticipates. And that was when we close you. And you go back to, so the government are going to close us? Yeah, this is Ireland.
Yeah, you'd be talking kind of like Nazi Germany stuff. If you said that to someone 2.5 years ago, you'd be like, come on, you're one of those conspiracy nuts now, are you? Whereas now, anything is possible, really. Do you think we've fully felt the effects of that yet, though? Do you think what we're experiencing now is starting to feel that little tightness? Is that only coming through now?
I think there's a bigger piece of people psychologically haven't recovered from it. It was a really challenging time, and like we had a lot of issues in work last year with just burnt out, because like we were really busy and we were full on, and we'd split ourselves so that if one team got COVID, that we could stay producing.
Smart, yeah.
And so we were stretched, and we were growing, and online was just taking off. Like myself and Suzanne, when I think what we were doing with online, like it was just bananas. We're set up for it now. We're structured for it now. It's a whole different, and it's a whole section of the business now. But like it turned on overnight, and like anyone you speak to, you all need a bit of luck. That was our bit of luck. Like there's a whole piece there of business that we have, and back to the customer service piece, if we look after them, we should maintain them. So I don't think we're over the effects of it fully yet, from a point of view of like just people just having time off. I went to Venice last week. I didn't take my laptop.
As a founder, though, that's a sweet feeling. I remember the first time I did that, we went on honeymoon, and I was like, we're literally not going to have internet reception. Went on a cruise in the Caribbean. And I was like, we're literally not going to have. So even if I wanted to, I couldn't. And it was the best feeling in the world.
I regretted it 1 or 2 times, but do you know what? There's a fantastic team around me. I didn't need to take it. There's a couple of bits I wanted to do, but
that was for you though, not for them. They were fine. They were like, great, he's gone for a few days. We can knuckle down and get things going. What is the plans? We're almost at our last question, and we'll do a speed round then at the end. What's kind of like the plan? I know you can't reveal a lot of it for different reasons, but the next 12 to 18 months, where is Velo going?
The big piece for us is to grow in the UK. So pre-Brexit, we were doing well online to the UK, and it was a nightmare. So ignore the other challenges of Brexit. So we had hundreds of customers, packages stuck in this new UK revenue warehouse that nobody knew how to operate. It had all been purchased pre-Brexit, so it was irrelevant to the Brexit piece. Nobody in there could actually make a decision and go, that just needs to be delivered, that needs to be delivered. And it was locked in this limbo, and we were looking, like we don't have a big team, we don't have a big customer service team, and we were just non-stop. We can still name customers for you that we were dealing with at the time. And myself and Suzanne sat and went, you know what, there's just so much work in the UK. We just need to stop and look and see how important is it to us. Then when we looked and saw in the kind of 6 weeks leading up to it that we did 400 grand to the UK, we were like, oh, yeah, we need to replace that. We're not going to replace it overnight.
Yeah.
So we need to find a way. So we started with fulfillment centres, and when the volume turned up, they couldn't turn up. So we invested this year in our own place. So the UK is going to be big for us next year. It's growing. It's near on doubling every month. No, it needs to, because we've invested in it. But it's at a place now where you can see it's really starting to snowball. So like, you know, Dave was worried at the start there'd be days where you don't have a few bits to do, and that, like, you know, is my job, like, how am I going to be in? Like the girls in Cork would just laugh at him, going like, Dave, do us a favour, you know, log into the back of Shopify and just look and see where it was going.
Yeah.
And just stay calm. But get ready.
It's still messy. I bought a book for like £20. It was from an independent, it was a diary, a planner. It was from an independent person. And I got like a notice in the door going, you owe £10 on your £28 book. And I'm like, what?
Yeah.
It was like 6 something duty and then another 4 or 5 processing fee. And I was like, oh man.
But it's the 5 processing fees. So that's why we did it. So we looked at what are they doing. There's no duty on coffee. There's no VAT on coffee. So you order coffee off us. And we did it. We signed up for UK subscriptions to see what was happening with it coming this way. We were getting the same as you. There shouldn't be.
Yeah.
But there is, because the systems aren't there yet. So, and you're relying on somebody in my business to do the paperwork correctly. And yeah, Shopify will work with you on that, but it has to be set up correctly. And it just doesn't happen. So then it can be left off. So you buy a shirt from the UK, they don't charge you the UK VAT, and you get charged the Irish VAT when it comes in. But if they don't set it up right, you still get caught in the crossfire, and you're kind of looking going, well, I wanted it, so, oh, it's a $5 processing, you know. But your dairy became very expensive. So the UK is going to be big for us next year. We're pushing on strong in it. And food service in Ireland, we focused on retail first to get that up and running. Debbie looks after food service for us now. We do a lot of it through Cisco, and means that we can get all over the country. You can have your coffee in the morning wherever you are, and it's just in with your order with them, and that helps the flow of it. Debbie's hitting the ground running with that. The first pallet went into them the week of the lockdown. So imagine like just the loss of momentum, everything with it. So that's back flowing now as well. But the big win for us will be the UK next year.
Nice. Where can people, going to do our quick fire round, if you want to watch that, go onto the YouTube channel. Where can people learn a little bit more about you before we go into that? So where can people learn more about you and about Velo?
There's very little about me because it's all very boring.
You said content can't be boring. You said you're contradicting yourself now, Rob. You said marketing can't be boring.
My content. The last hour is most about me. LinkedIn profile is up there. I'm poor on Twitter. I get mad notions every so often, but I don't know, are we allowed on Twitter anymore, which is the next controversy.
Twitter's going to be the next. I'm gonna call it now. Twitter's going to be the next super app. I'm bullish, Elon. I think it's going to be huge.
Well, we all gave out about the car and that'll never work. Walk down the street and you'll walk into one.
A friend of mine, he's an absolute genius. He's like, never discount fierce nerds. And he's a fierce nerd. He's going to figure, he can land 2 rockets simultaneously on a thing floating in the ocean. You think he can't fix social media? I was like, I guess you're right. I think so. Get active, because there's not enough Irish entrepreneurs active on social media and in general. I think it's definitely an area that is underutilized. And if you guys are very good in terms of doing content, so I think you should definitely push. Now we'll do a speed round. So if you're listening on audio, go to the YouTube channel. You're going to see a great speed round with Rob. Rob, first question. If you weren't doing this, what would you be doing?
Probably be working somewhere in food still. Love the retail space.
You can be doing anything in the world, Rob. Anything.
You didn't say that.
Look, world's your oyster. You can be doing anything.
Oh, scuba diving. Just chilling under the water. Like we touched on the not taking the laptop away.
Okay.
When I was on holidays before I could not take the laptop away, right guys, I'm going diving in the morning at 11. That means I'm off air. There's no phones work down there. There's nothing. So that the train travel time, that complete clarity. I love it.
Okay. I think you've ruined one of my next questions. But anyway, we'll get to that when we come to it. Bootstrap or raise venture funding? Or any funding?
We did bootstrap at the start. You can't scale the way we are without it, but the big piece for funding is to have the right partners. So, like, we've raised a nice amount of money now through the WIS. We've great people involved. 2 years ago, we were let down by people, and when Tesco's came on, that gap in the money had a real cash flow pinch that we shouldn't have had for a really good news story. It shouldn't have been a pinch. So they came back and wanted to come in last year, and I said no, and their intermediary was like, you're going to turn down that? I said, absolutely, because...
Fool me once.
Yep. Whereas, like we mentioned Kevin and Quintus there earlier on, like, he's been fantastic in that space, and he comes up and does a quarterly review on behalf of the investors, but like just having somebody looking over it. So if you want to scale, unfortunately, unless you've won the Euro Millions, you need funding, and just get the right people. Get people, if there's any glitch at all, walk away. The lads in Regan Wall did our legals for us. Fantastic job. And you need somebody who knows it. I don't know that space. I'm new to it.
What was the name of the legal firm? Because we get a lot of people looking for stuff like that. What was it called?
Regan Wall.
Regan Wall.
Yeah.
So the show notes.
Kieran in there was fantastic.
Kevin is superb. I was voicing on him on the way down. What is the one book that impacted you personally or professionally?
Jack Daly, Hyper Sales Growth.
New one? Haven't heard that one before.
And one of the lines in it that sounds horrible, particularly after last week, is you don't stay awake at night about the people you hired. You stay awake at night about the people you haven't fired. And it sounds horrible, but it's so true. If they're not the right fit, they're probably feeling the same. So just draw a line under it. Do it in the Stripe way versus the Elon way, maybe. But just do it, because everyone will feel better afterwards. And particularly in this climate, there's loads of jobs out there. So just get the right people around you.
Excellent advice. What other trends are you interested in? What other things, if you're like, oh, I'd love to start a business in this, or I'm really passionate about that trend or area, what would it be? I'm always looking to give people ideas for things to start.
I'm sitting here excessively overweight. And the bit you didn't ask about was where the Velo piece came from. It came from cycling, fitness and health. I need to get back exercising. I need to get back that piece, and it started, and there was a couple of setbacks, I had surgery and stuff, but that whole space, just watching what's going on there, where like you've a watch on your wrist there that's telling you all your data. It's insane.
I'm uber nerd. I have 2. I'm obsessive about that space. That is the one space I am obsessive about. So it's interesting to hear you say that.
So that it always interests me. And one of the things when I started out, we opened the cafe in 2015, and the Apple Watch was coming out. I said, things are running well now. I'm going to buy myself one of them. And it's that thing. I actually didn't like it in the end because there was too many bloody notifications coming in.
I didn't connect that. It's just for collecting data. It's not for pushing. I don't want notifications. I have enough on my phone. I do not want notifications. I think health and longevity will be one of the biggest growth areas, and not like alternative health. Even me and my friend were having this discussion going, there's such an opportunity here. Even the fact you have to say alternative, preventative. I go get bloods done twice a year. It's not because I'm sick. It's because I don't want to be sick.
Yeah.
And that's where I think one of the biggest opportunities ever is. I answered your question for you, but anyway.
We're on the same page, though.
Exactly. What is the one thing you do to switch off from work? Can't be scuba diving. What is the one thing you do that you're like, yeah, I'm off now?
Used to be cycling. Witnessed too many ambulance pickups. So step back from it. Like if I'm not coming into work next week, it'll be fine. If it's planned, if I don't turn up tomorrow, we're not quite there yet.
Yeah.
Where it'll run for a while, but there's still jobs that only I do, which one of the tasks this year is to remove them. So back to good old-fashioned walking. I'm enjoying Kelly Harrington's book at the moment. Bought the paper and then downloaded it onto Kindle when I was going away, and just getting back into that, not having the bloody television on. I'm a slow bad reader though, so.
It's the little things, isn't it?
Yeah.
The little things become the big things. Rob, thank you so much for coming on. That was an absolutely class chat. Where can people learn more? Where can people buy more Velo?
So in Ireland, Velo is Tesco's, Dunn's, Aldi. Small shops like Mormack's up in Ballintemple, O'Driscoll's in Ballinlough, dotted around the country, about 20 SuperValues, or velo.coffee.
Perfect. Rob, thank you
Thanks
so
a mil.
much. Hope you enjoyed today's episode with Rob. To learn more about the channel, click subscribe here or watch last week's episode right here.